Imagine living in a world where kindness was rare and corruption was everywhere. Picture a society where people cared only for themselves, where greed and violence were part of daily life, and compassion was almost forgotten. In this world, trust was a luxury, and hope seemed to fade with every passing day. This was the world of Noah, a world teetering on the edge of ruin, where darkness seemed to swallow any glimmer of goodness. Noah wasn't a king or a warrior, just a husband and father of 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. He lived a simple life, working the land and caring for his family, trying to shield them from the chaos outside their door. What set Noah apart was his unwavering faith and integrity. In a world where most people followed the crowd, Noah stood firm in his beliefs, even when it meant standing alone. He was described as righteous and blameless among his people. Neighbors may have whispered or doubted, but Noah's actions spoke louder than words. Noah wasn't perfect, but he tried every day to do what was right, listening for a voice others ignored. He sought guidance in quiet moments, searching for meaning beyond what he could see. He walked with God, not just following rules, but seeking a real relationship. For Noah, faith was not a ritual, but a journey, a daily walk, step by step with the divine. While others chased their own desires, Noah chose a different path, striving to live in harmony with the divine. He resisted temptation, even when it meant being misunderstood or mocked by those around him. His family became a small island of goodness in a sea of moral decay. Together they supported one another, holding fast to their values and finding strength in unity. Noah's steadfastness caught the attention of heaven. His quiet courage and devotion did not go unnoticed by the one who sees all. A great change was coming, and Noah, the man who walked with God, would play a role he never imagined. The world was about to be transformed, and Noah's faith would be put to the ultimate test. His faith would become the turning point for all of humanity, showing that even in the darkest times, one person's trust in the divine can change the course of history. Why would a loving creator send a flood? It's a question that echoes through the ages, stirring both curiosity and discomfort. To understand, we must look at the world as it was, through the eyes of a creator who longed for goodness but saw only darkness spreading. The world had become saturated with wickedness, violence, greed, and cruelty everywhere. Every day people turned against one another, and compassion seemed to vanish from daily life. The streets echoed with anger and fear, and trust was a rare commodity. The very fabric of society unraveled. People lived only for themselves. Acts of kindness were overshadowed by selfishness, and the vulnerable were left to suffer alone. The world's beauty was fading beneath the weight of human choices. God's heart was filled with sorrow, not anger, a parent's grief watching children self-destruct. Imagine the pain of seeing loved ones choose paths that lead only to harm, unable to reach them despite endless love. The goodness of creation was suffocated by humanity's choices. Even the earth itself seemed to mourn, as pollution and neglect replaced the harmony that once existed. A reset was needed, not out of rage, but out of heartbreak for what was lost. The world was spiraling beyond repair, and something drastic had to be done to preserve any hope for the future. The flood was a drastic measure, a judgment born of sorrow, to end rampant evil and allow for a new beginning. It was not a punishment for punishment's sake, but a painful act of love, an intervention to stop the spread of suffering. Yet even in judgment, there was hope. The story of the flood is not just about destruction, but about the promise of renewal and the possibility of change. God saw one point of light, Noah. In a world lost to darkness, Noah's faith and integrity shone like a beacon. Noah's goodness offered a reason to hope for humanity's restoration. He was not perfect, but he listened, cared, and tried to do what was right. God chose Noah not for power, but for his heart. In a world obsessed with strength and dominance, it was compassion and humility that mattered most. In Noah, God saw the seed for a better future. Through him, the possibility of healing and renewal could take root once more. Noah would become the vessel of hope. His actions would carry forward the promise that goodness could survive even in the darkest times. Through him, humanity would get a second chance, a chance to choose compassion, to rebuild, and to honor the Creator's dream for a world filled with light. One day, God spoke to Noah with a sense of urgency and purpose. He commanded him to build an ark, a colossal vessel unlike anything the world had ever seen. This was not just a simple boat, but a lifeline, a divine blueprint for survival in the face of impending catastrophe. The instructions Noah received were astonishingly detailed. He was to use sturdy gopher wood, construct 3 separate decks, and seal every inch with pitch to make it watertight. The ark's dimensions were staggering, stretching longer than a football field and towering high above the ground, a feat of engineering that seemed impossible for its time. Every measurement, every material, every step was dictated by God himself, leaving nothing to chance. This was a project that demanded both precision and unwavering faith. Noah, already advanced in years, gathered his family and shared with them the incredible task that lay ahead. He explained God's warning and the promise of safety for those who would listen and obey. But as word spread, neighbors and villagers scoffed at the sight of a massive ship taking shape on dry land. They laughed, ridiculed, and dismissed Noah's warnings as foolishness, unable to imagine a flood so great it would cover the earth. Yet Noah remained steadfast. For 120 long years, he and his sons toiled day after day, their hands blistered and backs aching, but their spirits unbroken. Every swing of the hammer, every plank set in place, was an act of obedience and hope. The construction of the ark became a spectacle, a public declaration of faith in the midst of widespread disbelief. It stood as a visible symbol, challenging everyone who saw it to consider their own choices. Would they continue in their ways or turn back to God? Noah didn't just build, he preached. He spoke passionately to the crowds, warning them of the coming judgment and pleading with them to seek safety in God's mercy. But his words fell on deaf ears. The people remained unmoved, their hearts hardened. As the ark neared completion, dark clouds began to gather on the horizon, a silent warning that the time was drawing near. Still, the people turned away, ignoring the signs of the approaching storm. In the face of mockery and isolation, Noah's unwavering obedience stood in stark contrast to the world's disbelief. He pressed on, driven by faith in God's promise. The ark, when finished, was more than just a boat. It was a monument to trust, a physical testament to the power of faith and perseverance against all odds. As Noah and his family prepared to enter the ark, their hearts were filled with both anxiety and hope. They trusted that God, who had guided them this far, would see them through the coming storm. The world was on the brink of transformation. The storm was coming, and nothing would ever be the same again. With the ark complete, something miraculous happened. Animals began to arrive, guided by an unseen force. 2 of every kind and 7 pairs of the clean animals came in an orderly procession. Lions walked beside lambs, birds of every color found their place, a living library of creation. Noah and his family guided the creatures into the ark, preparing stores and enclosures. There was no fear or chaos. A divine peace settled over all. The ark became a sanctuary, preserving not just humanity but all of creation. God's concern extended to every living thing. As the last animal entered, the scale of the mission was clear. The future of life rested within those wooden walls. The ark stood ready, a microcosm of the world awaiting the storm. With everyone aboard, the final moment arrived. The great door of the ark closed, not by Noah's hand, but by God's. It was an act of protection and judgment. The time for choosing was over. For 7 days, Noah's family waited in darkness, the world outside oblivious to what was coming. Inside, tension and hope mingled as they listened for the first drops of rain. Then it began, a gentle patter, then a roar. The heavens opened and water erupted from the earth. The deluge was unstoppable, chaos engulfing the world outside. The ark was sealed, a refuge amid destruction. Noah's faith was now their only anchor. The world as they knew it was gone. Inside they waited, suspended between the old and the new. The storm had begun. For 40 days and nights, rain fell without pause, swallowing mountains and cities alike. The ark lifted, tossed by waves, a tiny vessel in a boundless ocean. Inside, Noah's family faced fear and uncertainty, relying on faith and the strength of their bond. Their days were filled with caring for animals. a labor of love that kept despair at bay. The routine gave them purpose, forging unity among the 8 survivors. They prayed, shared meals, and comforted each other, the last remnant of humanity. In the midst of terror, they created a floating sanctuary. Their hope that one day the rain would stop and life would return. Every day was an act of trust in God's promise. The Ark became a beacon of hope above a drowned world. The rain stopped, but the ordeal continued. For 150 days, the Ark drifted on endless water. Inside, Noah's family managed food, cared for animals, and endured monotony and confinement. Faith was tested in the silence and uncertainty. Then God remembered Noah. A wind blew, and the waters began to recede. The Ark came to rest on the mountains of Ararat. Noah waited, sending out a raven, then a dove. The dove returned with an olive leaf, a sign of hope. Life was returning to the earth. After another week, the dove did not return. The world was ready. The long wait was over. The Ark had fulfilled its purpose. A new beginning was at hand. The promise of renewal was real. The olive leaf brought joy and hope, proof the earth was healing. After more than a year, God told Noah to leave the Ark with his family and all the animals. They stepped into a world reborn, fresh, clean, and silent. Noah's first act was to build an altar and offer thanks to God. Gratitude filled their hearts for survival and a second chance. Animals emerged, spreading across the new landscape. Life returned, breaking the silence with song and movement. It was the dawn of a new era for humanity and creation. The world was given a fresh start. Hope and harmony filled the air. In this new world, God made a covenant with Noah, his family, and all living creatures. He promised never again to destroy the earth with a flood. As a sign, God set a rainbow in the clouds, a symbol of his promise and mercy. The rainbow became a reminder that storms will pass and hope will return. Every rainbow is an echo of this ancient promise. Destruction is not the final word. It's a bridge between heaven and earth, a sign of new beginnings. Even after darkness, renewal is possible. God's faithfulness endures, and he never gives up on creation. The story of Noah's Ark is a journey from judgment to grace, from despair to hope, and above all, it leaves us with the rainbow, a timeless sign that a new day will always dawn.